When we talk about attitude, we're not just talking about putting on a smile or pretending everything is fine. Attitude is much deeper than that. It's the composite of your thoughts, your feelings, and your actions. It's the vibration you carry with you into every room, every conversation, every opportunity. Long before you open your mouth, people can sense your attitude. It influences how others respond to you, but more importantly, it shapes how you respond to life. Every result you've experienced so far can be traced back to the attitude you brought to the situation. Most people think attitude is only about what you say or do when things are going well, but your true attitude shows itself when things aren't going your way. When a plan falls apart, when the door you were hoping for closes, or when someone doubts you, your attitude becomes your greatest asset or your greatest liability. If you hold a negative mental posture, you'll see barriers, excuses, and reasons to quit. But with a strong positive attitude, those same setbacks become feedback, stepping stones, and opportunities to learn. Think about how your morning begins. If you start the day with gratitude, a clear intention, and a sense of possibility, you carry that energy into every interaction. People notice. Opportunities seem to open. Your mind is alert to solutions instead of problems. But if you wake up in a rush, grumbling about yesterday, doubting yourself, or criticizing others, your mind closes off. The same world presents itself, but you experience it as stressful and unwelcoming. Nothing external has changed, only your attitude. You can't control every circumstance, but you always control your inner posture. That's where real power lies. The secret is to consciously choose your dominant thoughts and feelings, because those will form your attitude, and your attitude will dictate your actions. Repeated actions form habits, and habits create your results. This is not just positive thinking, it's practical cause and effect. When you understand this, you begin to take responsibility for how you show up, rather than blaming the world for how it shows up to you. A strong attitude also affects your self-image. If you believe you're capable, valuable, and worthy, your attitude radiates confidence and calm. People want to work with you, support you, and trust you. Conversely, if you carry an attitude of doubt, guilt, or fear, that energy repels opportunities. The outside world simply mirrors what you're projecting. This is why the first step in improving your results is improving your inner attitude. It's the signal you're broadcasting at all times. Now, building a powerful attitude doesn't happen overnight, but it's simple. Start by observing your internal dialogue. Ask yourself, what am I focusing on right now? What story am I telling myself about this situation? If it's disempowering, choose a better perspective. Focus on gratitude, possibility, and what you can do rather than what you can't. Reinforce that mindset with your body language. Stand tall, breathe deeply, and act as though the outcome you want is already unfolding. By doing this consistently, you shift your internal state, and your actions naturally follow. Another key is to surround yourself with influences that lift your attitude rather than drag it down. Conversations, media, and environments all impact your state of mind. If you're constantly absorbing negativity, you'll have to fight harder to maintain a positive outlook. If you curate your environment and nurture uplifting relationships, your attitude strengthens almost effortlessly. You start to expect good things and behave accordingly, which attracts more of what you want. This isn't about ignoring problems or pretending difficulties don't exist. It's about acknowledging reality but refusing to surrender your power to it. When you realize you can choose your attitude regardless of circumstances, you begin to experience freedom. You stop reacting and start creating. That's when you step into true leadership of your life. Imagine two people facing the same challenge. One says, "This is impossible," and stops trying. The other says, "This is tough, but I'll find a way," and keeps moving. The difference isn't skill or resources, it's attitude. Over time, that difference compounds into dramatically different lives. One person reinforces failure, the other reinforces growth. You get to decide which person you're going to be every day with every thought you think. So as we move forward together in this journey, remember this: your attitude is the launching pad for everything else. Your self-image, your relationships, your goals, and your fulfillment. If you want to change your results, change your attitude first. When you do, you don't just see the world differently, you step into a world of new possibilities that were waiting for you all along. If attitude is the engine, self-image is the blueprint it runs on. You cannot consistently act in a way that contradicts the way you see yourself. Everything you do, everything you attempt, and even what you allow yourself to dream about flows directly from the picture you hold of you. This picture, your self-image, is like an internal thermostat. It regulates how much success, happiness, and abundance you'll let into your life. If it's set low, you'll sabotage yourself whenever things start going well. If it's set high, you'll find ways to rise even when circumstances push you down. Most people never stop to question their self-image. It's formed early, often from the opinions of parents, teachers, friends, or past experiences. A careless comment from childhood, a disappointment, or a mistake can become part of the identity you carry for decades. You start to believe, this is just who I am, but that's not true. Your self-image is learned And anything learned can be unlearned or rewritten. You're not stuck with the picture you inherited. You have the power to create a new one. Think about the times you've wanted to achieve something new, speak up in a meeting, start a business, get fit, or improve a relationship. If the picture you hold of yourself is small, you'll hesitate. You'll find excuses. You'll shrink back because your actions must stay consistent with your identity. On the other hand, if your self-image is strong, if you see yourself as capable and worthy, you'll step forward with confidence. You'll persist through obstacles because you believe you belong at the table. Building a healthy self-image isn't about arrogance. It's about truth. It's about recognizing the immense potential and worth already within you, and then aligning your thoughts, feelings, and actions to that truth. When you start to hold a better picture of yourself, your world begins to rearrange itself around that new picture. People respond differently. Opportunities emerge. Your own standards rise. You naturally start treating yourself and others with more respect. One of the most powerful ways to shift your self-image is through repetition of new ideas about yourself. Just as you once absorbed limiting beliefs, you can now feed your mind empowering ones. Affirmations, visualization, and intentional self-talk are not just cliches. They're tools to reprogram the way you see yourself. When you consistently imagine and feel yourself as the person you want to be, your subconscious mind begins to accept it as reality. Then your actions align without effort, and the old self-image dissolves. Another key factor is your environment. Who you spend time with, what you read, what you listen to, all of these inputs are reinforcing either the old picture or the new one. Surround yourself with people who see the greatness in you, who challenge you, who remind you of your potential. Limit exposure to voices that drag you back into doubt or mediocrity. This isn't about cutting people off harshly, it's about curating your influences so they support your vision of yourself. Your body language also shapes your self-image. Stand tall, breathe deeply, move with purpose, and speak with clarity. These physical cues send signals back to your mind, reinforcing confidence and capability. Over time, this changes how you feel inside. You stop performing confidence and start embodying it. And as you embody it, others treat you accordingly. Remember, your self-image is not static. It's a living thing. Every day you're either strengthening the old image or creating a new one. The key is to be intentional. Decide who you want to be, how you want to see yourself, and what kind of life matches that self-image. Then act in harmony with that decision. Small, consistent steps will accumulate, and before you know it, you've become the person you once only imagined. When your self-image expands, your attitude naturally elevates. Challenges that once felt intimidating now feel like opportunities to express who you are becoming. Doubts that used to stop you lose their grip. You begin to operate from a sense of purpose and possibility rather than fear and limitation. You no longer chase success to prove your worth. You create success because you know your worth. Attitude and self-image aren't two separate forces sitting on opposite ends of your life. They're tightly woven together, each feeding and shaping the other. When you change one, the other shifts automatically. A strong, positive attitude strengthens your self-image, and an empowered self-image naturally lifts your attitude. Think of them as two sides of the same coin. The way you see yourself determines how you approach the world, and the way you approach the world reinforces how you see yourself. If you hold a small, doubtful picture of yourself, even the best opportunities can feel overwhelming. Your attitude becomes hesitant, cautious, even defensive. You don't speak up in meetings, you pass on chances to lead, or you undercharge for your services because deep down you're not sure you're worth more. And each time you do that, your self-image takes another hit. The cycle continues until your life shrinks to fit the beliefs you hold about yourself. But the moment you begin to picture yourself differently, your attitude shifts. You walk into a room with confidence, your tone changes, your body language changes, and people sense it. They respond differently, and that external feedback strengthens your self-image further. This feedback loop is powerful. If your attitude is pessimistic, it filters every experience through the lens of I can't or I'm not enough. That lens then reinforces a weaker self-image, which produces more pessimism. But if your attitude is open and expectant, it filters experiences through I can, I will, and I deserve. That lens reinforces a stronger self-image, which produces more optimism. Before long, the same world looks and feels entirely different because you're viewing it through a different internal relationship with yourself. Consider the times when you felt unstoppable. Maybe you achieved a fitness goal, landed a new job, or overcame a challenge you once thought was impossible. Notice how your attitude during that period matched your elevated self-image. You probably woke up with energy, approached problems with curiosity, and spoke with conviction. You carried yourself as someone who expected success. That attitude strengthened your self-image, and your self-image fed back into your attitude. It was a self-reinforcing loop that propelled you forward. The great news is you don't have to wait for some external achievement to spark this loop. You can begin it from the inside out. Start by choosing a better attitude, one of gratitude, confidence, an expectation even if you don't fully feel it yet. That choice begins to shift your actions. You stand taller, you take small risks, you practice courage. Each small success strengthens your self-image. As your self-image improves, it becomes easier and more natural to maintain the positive attitude. This is how you build momentum. Visualizing yourself as the person you want to be is another way to link attitude and self-image. Spend a few moments each day imagining how that version of you walks, talks, and responds to challenges. Then practice embodying that version right now. You'll be amazed at how quickly your brain and nervous system adjust. Over time, your self-image becomes more aligned with that new vision, and your attitude follows automatically. Another crucial element is how you handle setbacks. People with a fragile self-image interpret setbacks as proof they're inadequate. Their attitude becomes defensive or discouraged, which further erodes their self-image. People with a strong self-image interpret setbacks as feedback. They maintain a constructive attitude, adjust their approach, and keep moving forward. The difference isn't in the obstacle itself, but in the internal dialogue between attitude and self-image. The environment you place yourself in accelerates this interconnection. Surround yourself with people who see the best in you, who encourage growth, who model strong attitudes and healthy self-images. These influences act as mirrors, reflecting back a more powerful version of yourself until you believe it and live it. Likewise, limit time spent with influences that trigger self-doubt or negative thinking. Your attitude and self-image are too precious to be left to chance. As these two forces align, something remarkable happens. You no longer feel like you're forcing change. Instead, you're pulled toward it. The things that once felt impossible become natural. You speak more boldly, set higher goals, and treat yourself with greater respect. You no longer have to hype yourself up for confidence. It becomes your default state. This is the point where your outer results begin to transform in ways that surprise even you. When you understand and nurture the link between attitude and self-image, you step into a place of deliberate creation. You're no longer reacting to life, you're shaping it from the inside out. And as that internal alignment strengthens, the world can't help but mirror it back to you. Every life operates within a framework of principles, whether we recognize them or not. Just as gravity pulls everything toward the earth, there are invisible but unchanging laws that shape our experiences, relationships, and results. You don't have to believe in them for them to work. They're operating all the time, guiding and influencing the way life unfolds. When we understand and live in harmony with these laws, life feels smoother, more purposeful, more aligned. When we ignore or resist them, we feel friction, struggle, and confusion. Think about honesty. When you're honest with yourself and others, you build trust. People can rely on you. You create stability in your relationships. That's not random. It's a predictable outcome of aligning with a fundamental principle. Or consider the law of cause and effect. Everything you put out, your thoughts, actions, and words, sets causes in motion that come back as effects. If you plant kindness, patience, and dedication, you'll harvest goodwill, opportunities, and growth. If you plant resentment, blame, or laziness, you'll harvest problems, mistrust, and missed chances. Life is always echoing back what we put into it. These laws also remind us of responsibility. When you take responsibility for your actions, you tap into personal power. You stop blaming circumstances, other people, or luck, and instead start working with life rather than fighting it. Responsibility isn't about guilt or punishment. It's about ownership. Ownership gives you freedom because if you created part of the problem, you also hold the power to create the solution. This mindset transforms your attitude from reactive to proactive, and it strengthens your self-image as someone capable of shaping your life deliberately. Another principle is perseverance. Nothing truly worthwhile is built overnight. Every dream requires consistent effort, sometimes in the face of discouragement. When you understand this, setbacks lose their sting. They're not signals of failure, but part of the natural process. This keeps your attitude steady and your self-image resilient. You begin to see challenges not as walls, but as staircases leading to your next level. Compassion and empathy are also woven into these laws of life. We are not isolated beings. How you treat others ripples outward and inevitably returns. The more you practice understanding and patience, the more those qualities show up for you in unexpected ways. A generous spirit strengthens your character and enhances your sense of worth, because deep down you know you're living by a principle larger than yourself. The beauty of these laws is that they work for everyone everywhere, regardless of background. They are neutral forces, like the tides of the ocean. You can't stop the tide, but you can learn to ride it. When you do, you feel supported, not threatened. You start to anticipate how life responds to your actions, and you choose more wisely. This consistency produces a deep sense of confidence and peace. To align with these principles, start small. Ask yourself in any situation, what's the principle at work here? Am I acting with integrity, responsibility, and patience? Am I sowing the seeds I want to harvest? By making choices that reflect the laws you understand, you build habits that support your goals. Over time, these habits become character, and character shapes destiny. You'll also notice how these laws link back to attitude and self-image. A person who lives by clear principles naturally develops a stronger self-image. They see themselves as trustworthy, disciplined, and worthy of success. That image elevates their attitude. Their attitude then attracts experiences consistent with that image. The cycle reinforces itself, and soon the person is living on a higher plane of results, not because of chance, but because of alignment with the laws governing life. When you truly internalize these principles, you stop chasing quick fixes. You focus on becoming the kind of person who naturally produces the outcomes you want. You act from a foundation of universal truth rather than momentary impulse. This steadiness allows you to navigate uncertainty, setbacks, and change with grace. You're no longer at the mercy of moods or external events. You're anchored in principles that don't shift with the wind. All of this is available to you right now. These laws are already in motion. The question is not whether they're working, but whether you're working with them. The more you do, the more life begins to feel like it's on your side. When you align your life with principles that never change, you step into a current that carries you farther and faster than force alone ever could. It's one thing to understand attitude, self-image, and the laws of life in theory. It's another to build them into the fabric of your daily existence. Principles remain concepts until they become habits. Habits are the bridge between knowing and living, between intention and reality. Every choice you make, every action you repeat, is either reinforcing an old pattern or creating a new one. The good news is that habits are learned behaviors, which means they can be unlearned and reshaped to match the life you truly want. Most people underestimate the power of small daily actions. They wait for big breakthroughs, dramatic changes, or perfect timing. But life changes quietly through the seemingly ordinary things you do every single day. If you start each morning feeding your mind with empowering ideas, moving your body, and setting a clear intention, your day begins with alignment and focus. Over time, that consistency rewires your nervous system, your thought patterns, and even your sense of identity. You become the kind of person who naturally lives by the principles you value rather than struggling to stick with them. The process of building habits that align with the laws of life begins with clarity. Decide which principles matter most to you: integrity, persistence, gratitude, responsibility, and then translate those principles into daily practices. For example, if gratitude is a principle you want to embody, practice writing 3 things you're grateful for each morning. If persistence is your principle, set a small non-negotiable goal you work toward daily, even on the hard days. Each action is a vote for the person you're becoming. One of the greatest benefits of aligned habits is the way they strengthen your self-image. When you consistently act with integrity, you start to see yourself as an honest person. When you persist despite discomfort, you begin to view yourself as resilient. When you show gratitude, you start to identify as someone who sees abundance instead of lack. Those identities feed your attitude, which then attracts better experiences. It's a self-reinforcing cycle that begins with simple, repeated actions. Environment also plays a huge role in habit formation. You can set up your surroundings to make good habits easier and bad habits harder. If you want to feed your mind uplifting ideas, keep a book or audio nearby instead of doom scrolling through negativity. If you want to practice patience and kindness, spend time with people who model those qualities. Your environment shapes your behavior more than sheer willpower ever will. By curating your surroundings, you align your external world with your internal goals, making it far easier to stay consistent. Habits also protect you when your motivation dips. Motivation will rise and fall, that's natural, but habits are automatic. Once ingrained, they carry you through on autopilot. This is why building habits that reflect your highest principles is so powerful. They become the default path, not the uphill struggle. You don't have to try. To be honest, grateful, disciplined, or kind, you simply are, because your daily behavior has made it part of your identity. Another key is to start small and stack your habits. Don't overwhelm yourself with a dozen changes at once. Pick one practice that aligns strongly with your chosen principle and do it consistently. Then, once it's automatic, layer in another. Over time, you'll have a network of habits that support your goals and values. This slow, steady approach is sustainable, and it creates deep transformation rather than temporary bursts of effort. Pay attention, too, to how you speak to yourself when you slip. Everyone misses a day or breaks a habit at some point. Instead of using it as evidence against yourself, use it as feedback. Ask what got in the way, adjust your environment or routine, and start again immediately. This mindset keeps your self-image intact and your attitude constructive. You're training yourself to be resilient and adaptable rather than all or nothing. As your habits grow stronger, you'll find that your goals shift from being distant aspirations to natural extensions of who you are. You no longer struggle to become disciplined, honest, grateful, or persistent. You've already built that character into your daily actions. Opportunities flow more easily to someone who consistently lives by their values. You feel more grounded, more confident, and more capable because your habits are proof of the life you're creating. When you commit to habits that mirror the principles you believe in, you stop wrestling with yourself. You start experiencing the quiet power of consistency, and in that consistency, your attitude, self-image, and alignment with the laws of life all strengthen together, carrying you forward almost effortlessly. Everything we've explored so far, attitude, self-image, the laws of life, and the habits that reinforce them, ultimately comes down to one central realization: you are responsible for your inner world. That means your thoughts, your emotions, your reactions, and your choices are yours to direct. Many people spend their entire lives trying to manage the external world, jobs, relationships, circumstances, without ever realizing the true leverage point is within. When you take ownership of your inner state, your outer world begins to shift almost automatically. Taking responsibility for your inner world doesn't mean suppressing your feelings or pretending challenges don't exist. It means recognizing that no matter what's happening outside, you still hold the power to choose your response. It's in that choice where your freedom lies. You might not control the economy, the weather, or someone else's behavior, but you absolutely control your own focus, attitude, and behavior. That is a profound power, and when you embrace it, you stop being at the mercy of circumstances. Think of your mind as a garden. Thoughts are seeds. Some seeds produce weeds, fear, self-doubt, resentment, and some produce flowers, gratitude, creativity, confidence. If you don't tend your garden, weeds grow by default. But when you take responsibility, you become the gardener. You pull out the weeds and plant intentionally. Over time, your inner garden becomes a place of strength and beauty, and your outer life reflects that. This level of ownership also changes the way you see problems. Instead of thinking, why is this happening to me? You begin to ask, what can I learn from this? How can I use this? What's my next best step? That shift in questions immediately elevates your attitude and strengthens your self-image. You no longer see yourself as a victim, but as a creator, someone capable of shaping outcomes even in the middle of uncertainty. Taking charge of your inner world requires awareness. Pay attention to the stories you're telling yourself. Are they empowering or disempowering? Notice the emotions you're rehearsing. Are they aligned with the future you want to create, or are they anchoring you to the past? With awareness, you gain the ability to interrupt old patterns and replace them with choices that reflect who you truly are. Another part of this responsibility is self-discipline. It's not about harsh control. It's about caring enough for yourself to steer your focus, your energy, and your time toward what matters most. It might mean pausing before reacting, breathing before speaking, or choosing to see possibility instead of limitation. Each small act of self-discipline reinforces your self-image as someone capable and trustworthy. It builds internal strength the same way lifting weights builds physical strength. Your environment will still influence you, but when you're anchored inside, you become less reactive to it. You're no longer thrown off by every comment, headline, or setback. You develop a calm center, a grounded presence. People notice this and are drawn to it because it signals leadership and stability. More importantly, you notice it in yourself. You start trusting your own capacity to navigate whatever comes. This kind of personal responsibility also frees you from blame. Blame might feel satisfying in the short term, but it keeps you powerless. Responsibility restores your power. It allows you to forgive yourself for past mistakes, learn from them, and move forward without shame. It allows you to release others from the role of cause in your life and step into the role of creator. You stop waiting for permission or ideal conditions, start building the life you want from the inside out. As you take greater ownership of your inner world, your outer habits shift naturally. You choose healthier routines, kinder words, and more constructive attitudes. You surround yourself with people and situations that mirror your new standards. You experience less chaos because you're no longer matching the frequency of chaos inside. The world outside may still fluctuate, but you remain steady. Ultimately, taking responsibility for your inner world is an act of self-respect. It's declaring, I am worth guiding, worth protecting, worth investing in. And when you make that declaration, you step into the driver's seat of your life. You become the person who not only understands the principles we've been discussing, but lives them consistently, turning knowledge into lived experience.